let's talk about the Common Core standards or the Ohio Learning Standards. What you see here is the Ohio Learning Standards website from the Ohio Department of Education, and it discusses all the different types of standards by grade and by content area. So by grade level and by content area. As you know, because you either just came from high school, or perhaps you have children in school, or perhaps you just remember school, if you're as old as I am, but there's always standards that have to be met in order for you to finish or complete a unit, a module, a grade, to pass high school. And this is where those standards come from. So let's take a look about what standards actually are. So as it says here, standards are what we determine students should be able to know and do by the time they get done doing the course, the module, the activity, whatever it is that you're outlining with the standards. Now, when you started the class, I had you identify a grade level that you were interested in teaching in the future, and also a content area. So the way that the standards work, if you are in elementary school or up to middle school, so K through 5, then you would be teaching 4 different content areas. And that would be science, social studies, math, and English. So you would have 4 sets of standards that you would be using every day. If you're in middle school to high school, then it would be by the grade level and the content area. So some grade levels would be the same. So high school would be maybe high school, not necessarily freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. So it'd just be high school math, high school English. So let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into these standards. So they're a little bit tricky and they're a little bit confusing. So I wanted to go over it with you personally. So let's say you're looking at 2nd grade, for example, and we're just going to open this up. This particular document is simply the standards by grade level. So if you take a look at this and scroll down a little bit, it has a list of all the standards that are within this document. And that includes science, social studies, and as we mentioned, English, and on and on. So let's take a look at the social studies area. And so you can see up top tells you what supporting documents there are, and that includes the actual deeper dive into the standards. We're going to go there in a minute. But so this is 2nd grade. And so here's the history strand, and we'll talk about strands in a minute. So you can see time can be shown graphically on calendars and timelines. So let's take a look at a deeper dive here. You'll click on the Ohio Learning Standards for Social Studies. And that should take you to the actual social studies standards site. As you'll notice right here, it says Ohio Learning Standards for Social Studies. So as you click on the science or the math or the English, you'll be taken to a separate website as well. So what you want to get to is something that looks like this. It'll always have the big Ohio in the middle, and then it'll tell you the actual standards that you're looking at. So this is Ohio Learning Standards for Social Studies. And again, it goes through multiple grades. So we're looking at grade 2. But first, let's take a look at how we decipher this. And reading this can be a little bit confusing. So this particular page just tells you about the assumptions of the standards. But then we want to get into the meat of it. And I will guarantee you that not all standards in each subject are going to look exactly the same. Why they do this, I don't know, but they do not all break it down exactly the same way. I know science is a little bit different, and we'll look at that in a minute. So here is kindergarten through grade 8 is in this particular section. What I want to look at is strands. So strands for social studies are the overarching ideas that are within the social studies subject. And as you can see, it lists history, geography, government, and economics. A theme then is the focus of the grade level or the descriptive narrative of the high school course syllabus. So we're going to look at that in a minute. So a theme would be people working together. So people working together where? In history, in geography, in economics. So strand is the widest possible subject. And then you narrow it down to a theme. And then within that theme, you narrow it down to a topic. So this is the actual pieces of people working together, for example, that would be part of the overarching theme, which is part of the strand. Does that make sense? So you're just constantly paring it down to more and more detail. Once you get to a topic such as human systems, then you're going to go down to the smallest piece, which is the content statements. So when I ask you for what standard applies to a particular project, this is what you're actually going to look for, a content statement. But you'll be able to find it faster if you understand which strand to look under, which theme, which topic, and then define the content statement. The essential knowledge students should learn at each grade level. So this is where it really breaks it down to the nitty-gritty of what should be understood by the time they get out of each grade. For high school, and again, since it's just here, you'll see it's not broken down into those four strands, but it's broken down into courses. So when they say the course syllabus, so you might take a high school course in American history, modern world history, so on and so forth. So they would have different standards. So again, let's just go down a little bit here. And let's look at a few of the strands and themes. So again, here's a strand. So under geography, we're looking at the topic of spatial thinking and skills, places and regions, human systems, and then it'll give you a description. Oops, there we go. So spatial thinking examines the relationships among people, places, and environments by mapping and graphing geographic data. And you can go on to read the rest. So the overarching strand is the geography. And then we have topics, which is spatial thinking, places and regions, human systems. And as we keep going further down, we will see the themes that go along with those. So in kindergarten, the theme is a child's place in time and space. The kindergarten year is a time for children to begin to form concepts about the world beyond their own, which includes their classroom and their community. So again, you can read these on your own. I want you to explore them and just kind of get an idea of these are the things that we're going to decide how we create our activities that we'll do throughout this course. And I'll ask you to design something for students to use in a classroom, and you'll design it by your grade level and your content area. And if you're in elementary, you might have to fit in 4 content areas. And then also how you're going to infuse technology into these using the ISTE standards. So don't worry, I promise you we'll work together on it, and it'll make a lot more sense once we start to get into projects. So for now, what I want you to do is just explore your content area, your subject and grade level, and see what you can find. So good luck and happy exploring.